Not every job or every part of every job has to be done by people physically located in your practice. This is all about remote work, and it is far from new. My guest today consults with private practice clients on numerous operational issues, including this one, and she's going to share her insights with us. I'm Carl White, principal at Mark Advisory Group, which is a healthcare marketing agency, and I'm also the host of Practice Care. The mission for both is the same, and that's to help private practice owners stay private. That's usually what they want anyway. But care is better, in my opinion, when the provider owns the practice because then all the clinical decisions and all the business decisions are made by the same person or the same group of people. They just inevitably get intertwined, and it's better when the same group of people, clinician based, are the ones looking at and making those decisions. There are a lot of other models out there. I just don't think they're as good. So let's keep it simple and keep it private. My guest today is Katie Nunn. Katie provides training and coaching for healthcare leaders and their organizations on process improvement, financial optimization, and cultural transformation. Leveraging extensive experience with financial and operational turnarounds, she's a valuable advisor for an organization experiencing rapid expansion or change. With over 20 years' experience in healthcare leadership, her broad areas of expertise include practice assessments, process improvement, financial management, IT implementations, telemedicine, strategic planning, providers onboarding, and cultural transformation. Katie is a return guest on Practice Care. Thank you, Katie, for coming back.
Thank you for having me, Carl. I'm excited to do this.
Yeah, here we are at the beginning days of spring. We were just celebrating that it's Q2 and the weather's better and issues are different.
Yes.
So I can't say they're quieter given the time that we were recording. But nevertheless, we're going to get into talking about remote workers, managing them well, how to make the best out of them. But before we do that, tell us a bit more about yourself. That bio was kind of short. It left out your private practice, side of your profession. So tell us more about that
Yeah,
too.
sure. So I own two businesses, actually. One is a family medicine practice in Chesterfield, outside of Richmond, Virginia.
Mhm.
And we do bread and butter primary care and sleep medicine in that practice. We have about 20 providers in three locations, kind of in the Richmond, Virginia area.
Mhm.
And then we also do with Bright Ideas Medical Consulting is just that, a consulting practice for private practices that are looking for help on the business side of healthcare. So everything from HR issues to billing issues and anything in between is stuff that we can help practices with. And some practices use us just for like recruiting. And some practices use us for everything. So it just kind of depends on the practice's needs. And we like to meet the practice where they are and help them with whatever they need. And sometimes it's very temporary and just like a project, and sometimes it's a little bit more long term. So that's our consulting side.
Mhm.
But then we're actually doing it. We're in the trenches in primary care on the day in, day out basis as well.
Yeah.
So we know we're not just telling people how to do things, we actually do it ourselves as well.
Each one informs the other. It's you're the
Yes.
only one I've met that can say that, with credibility.
Yeah.
So you're like you're your own laboratory. I imagine
Yeah, we
sometimes.
oftentimes start new projects at Vital Care and then we're like, oh, this is really cool. And we'll take it out to our clients. Or sometimes we learn things from our clients and bring it back to our practice and try it in
Right.
our own practice. So
Right.
it's a win-win.
Right. Excellent. Excellent. And we're talking here about, managing remote workers. I imagine remote workers are a part of the practice, part of the primary care
Yes.
practice.
Yeah, both our
Yeah.
billers. We do a lot of our, like 50% of our business for Bright Ideas is revenue cycle management, and all of our billers are remote.
Mm.
And those billers also do the billing for our medical practice as well. And then we have some other areas that we use remote workers for.
Mm-hmm.
One is chronic care management.
Mm.
We have like medical assistants and nurses that do a light touch with our frailest patients. It's a Medicare program that is paid and helps keep patients out of the hospital. They call the
Mm.
patient once a month and say, hey, Mr. White, I see that you were supposed to go see your gastroenterologist last month. Did you actually do that? Did they get you on a med? Oh, you needed a prior auth for that, but you haven't gotten it done. Can I help you with that?
Mm.
Anything. They're kind of like their health coach, if you will.
Mm-hmm. A
And
little
that's
like
a
sort of accountability partner, it sounds like, kind of
yeah,
sort of. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, or maybe they just got out of the hospital and you're like, oh, well, we probably need to see you in the office. Or
Yeah.
many times they'll call and say, oh, I'm so glad you called me because if you didn't call me, I was going to go to the ER tomorrow. It's like perfect chance for us to intervene
Mm-hmm.
and keep costs low for
Mm-hmm.
that healthcare. And all that we have 12 chronic care managers and they all work remote. So some of
Wow.
them are working on clients and some of them are working for our practice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a really great service that we can offer. And the employees love it. Some employees just love remote work.
You mean the remote workers?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Um, and then the last position we have is kind of special. We have a one medical assistant who works remotely. She worked for us for a long time, and then her husband was in the military and he had to transfer.
Mm.
And we hated to lose her, and she wanted to stay with us and work remote. And she like helps all the providers with their prescription refills and kind of with all their inboxes. And so she's kind of like the eye in the sky and she's helping
Mm-hmm.
everybody and they love it because it's like keeps their inboxes from getting too crazy and she
Mm-hmm.
loves it and she's constantly, just helping out everybody
Right.
from a state away. So
Right. Right. So you can talk about this.
yeah.
So let's get into it. Remote workers. I guess the first question, why offer remote positions? Why think about it at all? I
Yeah.
mean, the default is, people should be here, but people think of why? I mean, what's the different thinking?
Right. So I find that there's several reasons. One is space. Like I can't
Mm-hmm.
tell you how many medical practices I go into, and like every seat in the place is full. They
Mm-hmm.
can't add one single person.
Mm-hmm.
And so sending people home to work just makes sense from a space standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Another reason is that you can really broaden your recruiting pool.
Yeah.
Like for our billing team, we have billers that work in probably 5 or 6 different states now.
Mm.
So when we advertise for a billing position, we open it up to the whole country
Mm-hmm.
rather than to just like our local, we live in Virginia. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we can attract top talent from the whole country.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you do have to know about like you have to have like payroll taxes and stuff like that. You have to like set that all up for being able to pay people in different states. But
Mm-hmm.
um so just having a broader recruiting pool
Sure.
is helpful. And then the being competitive, like billers, like they just want to work at home.
Mm-hmm.
Many of them are young moms that need to have the flexibility to be able to like run out and get their kid off the bus and bring them back and
Yeah.
not have to, deal with like, and, sometimes you run into the issue of having somebody that's like got 6 kids sitting in their lap while they're trying to work and that doesn't really work. But for the most part, they really cherish the ability to have that flexibility. And so they'll do a lot to make sure that they don't lose it.
Yeah.
Um, so just having that, being able to be competitive and offer that remote position where otherwise they might go to work for like a big hospital system that's going to let them work remote or something like that.
Yeah, it's such a good point. I have a virtual assistant and she's not even full time. She's somewhere
Hmm.
in Texas. I don't know where. She's got 3 kids. I imagine she does most of my work midnight to 4 a.m. I don't really know, but as
Yeah.
long as things are done for me, like, timely enough, what difference does it make?
Yeah, you don't
You
really
know, that
care
that's
when you're
that's
doing it.
my yeah, that's
Yeah,
my um so what types of work are good? Like in a private practice setting, my setting is nothing like a private practice setting. So
right.
what types of work is good to think about for remote workers in your
Yeah,
setting?
it's definitely not everything, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
can't have your front desk employees working at home,
Hmm.
right? I mean, you might be able to have one person that works at home and all they do is kind of the back end stuff, like getting, making sure everything's ready for when the patients come in, but you still have to have somebody physically sitting there to
Yeah.
say, hello, welcome to practice, that kind of thing.
Right.
Although before too long, we'll have some robot that's sitting there saying, hello.
Yeah.
um,
Different episode.
right. So, it has to and medical assistants, we can't have them can't check a blood pressure
Hmm.
remotely. So there's certain jobs that have to be in the office, but then for a medical office, I feel like, billing is definitely something that can be remote. For us, the chronic care management can be remote. Prior authorizations, like a lot of practices kind of centralize their prior auths,
Hmm.
and that's definitely something that could be done remotely.
Hmm.
Um, and any kind of work that's easily measured, because
Okay.
that's everybody's fear, right? That they're not going to actually be working. And so
Hmm.
any kind of position where you can kind of see that there's productivity happening on
Hmm.
a daily basis, I think is, lends itself nicely to remote work. And then, like I mentioned, we do chronic care management, and all of those employees work remotely as well. And lots of practices, you don't have to be just primary care to do chronic care management. So
Hmm.
specialties do it as well.
Hmm. So it sounds like there's a couple of conditions. One, it's more, I'll say, administrative rather than patient facing. That's
Yeah.
one. Good. Now, the chronic care, it's sort of patient facing, but it's not like the patients they don't come in to your
No,
practice.
it's designed to be a phone
So it's
call.
it's all remote.
Yes.
So might as
Even
well
if they
have
worked in the office, they'd be
it
calling
still
the
be
patients on the phone. Yeah.
correct. Okay, so remote to remote, that's another one.
Hmm.
And then I like your point about measurable in some way. Like with my virtual assistant, we have like a little project management tool we use, and she's got to check off her tasks. So I can
Hmm.
tell, I can
Hmm.
tell when they're done. So if it's
Yeah.
billing, is this is accrued, is the money coming in at the same pace it was before?
Yeah. I
Or
mean, you can
yeah,
see like how many charges went out, how many claims did you work, how many denials did you work? It's easy to measure billing
yeah,
because it's very transactional.
yeah,
So that lends itself nicely. And the chronic care management is too, because they have a patient panel and they have to call all those patients every month. And there you can kind of, in our computer system, you can kind of track like where they are and where, so you can see if
yeah.
they're being productive.
And how many of these, have to do a count, but are they all kind of full-time, like full-time hours, each of these, or are some of them sort of
Most, but we have
part-time?
a few part-timers too. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Do
And
you do
then
you do you guys like if it's going to be remote, I want it to be full-time? That's your that's your preference, or you don't, doesn't matter.
no, I mean, most of the time we kind of lean towards full-time employees just because we usually need full-time
Hmm.
work. But not because it's remote. It's just more of like the
That's the
need of the
nature.
practice. Yeah.
Got it.
Now,
Okay.
we do um, there are some things like some pitfalls, which I think we might get to
Yeah,
here.
let's hit it
So
now.
I'll
Yeah.
save that for later.
Oh,
But
okay. And
if
the
you
next
do,
quick, well, we could, it's either way we can do that. I mean, the next one I've got on my list is here. What are some tips on managing remote workers well?
yeah. So I think it's very similar to managing in-person workers, right? You have to have
Hmm.
frequent communication. You have to have, I always tell all of our managers, I want less formal, more frequent like check-ins with their employees.
Hmm.
Um, you know, Constantly giving them some education and feedback.
Hmm.
We use Microsoft Teams, and so everybody's always meeting via Teams,
Hmm.
and sending each other messages. So trying to make sure that there's still collaboration and culture in the organization
Hmm.
or in the group of remote workers so that they don't feel lonely and left out,
Hmm.
is important. So I think that those are the things that are important. You also don't want to, you have to trust that they're working, but verify that
Hmm.
they are.
Hmm.
You don't want to be like like we've had managers like on Microsoft Teams, you can tell there's a little green button that says that you're active or not active. And you don't want to be like monitoring their every keystroke, that's
Hmm.
gonna drive people crazy.
Hmm.
Nobody likes to be micromanaged, whether it's remotely or in the office. So
Yeah.
you have to have some balance there.
Well, and like I'm looking behind you, that's your office. If you wanted to do that, go like hover and you could, but you know,
Right.
it's funny. It's like we'll come back. We'll come back to this idea of, can't see it, can't manage it. But I mean, I used to work in an office. Nobody hovered over me to make sure.
Well, that's
So
just it.
then
It's
why is
like
it? Yeah, I
I
know.
have like MAs sitting out here all the time, and half the time I think they're on their cell phones, and I don't
Yeah, and
know,
if it was really a
you know.
problem, you'd go address it somehow. But like the
Right,
present, anyway, we'll come
exactly.
back to that. So yeah, you mentioned pitfalls. So those are tips. What are some pitfalls?
So technology, right? You have to buy them an office computer and send it
Yep.
home to them so that they're not like,
And a
you know,
proper security level setup, right? I
yes,
mean, we're talking
exactly.
patient
I've heard
information.
horror stories of
Hmm.
people working remotely on their home PC, and then, people are shocked when they have a breach happen. So, yeah, that's
Yeah.
a big pitfall.
You
You
can be
don't want to
angry,
do
just
that.
don't be surprised, right? I mean,
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So you got to set them up right with the right technology, and you got to buy it for them. You can't expect them to like buy that
Hmm.
stuff. So that's part of I mean, you're going to buy them a computer if they work in the office, right?
Yeah. Like what's the difference in maybe it's a bit more of a, I don't know, probably
I
something,
mean, when
but
you have to like ship it to another state, it's a little bit of more of a headache, but hopefully you don't do it all the time, and it's the cost of doing business.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then if they have issues with technology, your whoever runs your IT stuff is going to have to be willing to troubleshoot for them
Hmm.
remotely.
Hmm.
I think that one of the pitfalls too can be just like culturally. I just brought in our chronic care management team last week to have a meeting in person, and they were kind of like, "Oh, I don't want to come into the office. I don't know anybody there. Like, I don't, so having them feel like they're part of the organization can be
Hmm.
tough because they're not here all the time. And even though some of those employees are some of our most long-standing employees, they lose touch with the people that are in office. So um, it takes a lot of work to keep that cohesive, everybody's on the same page kind of
But
atmosphere.
I just want to ask about that. Like there's a trade-off that's made the moment somebody says, yes, I will stay in my state and not come and work in your office every day.
Right.
Um, Maybe is it just that people aren't thinking about, oh, now I feel disconnected? Well, right, exactly.
You're right.
The moment I said, yes, you can stay where you are,
Yes,
you're right. Yes.
you are going to feel
What's
less
the
connected.
problem? Like, it's
Yeah,
not like we're
exactly.
not trying to keep you out, but I'm not trying to sound like that. But like,
Right.
you're never going to be as connected as somebody who comes here every day. You're just because you're not here every day. Like, let's just call it like this is part of my, we're recording this. I'd say return to office nationally is a bit, maybe it's settling down. It's certainly not in the news as much as it used to be.
Hmm.
But I mean, um, there was a lot of issues that were this sort of, battle, I guess, between those who wanted to continue to stay at home and those who didn't. And I never quite bought into the reasons people were given for those who you got to come back because of our culture, because of collaboration. And you would hear from the reports were people saying, collaboration. I sit by myself in my cube, like, and we were crushing it
Right.
during COVID, and I don't get it, And so
Right.
I, I
I
and
feel
I
like
and
there's
I get this cohesive in the culture and everything, but like somebody who says, like, I used to work in organizations that had field sales organizations. These are people, maybe they're in the office once a year. And yes, you're not going to know everybody, and we're not going to know the inside joke of what happened over the weekend. But dude, you get to live at home. Like, it's
yeah.
just I
Yes.
like the sort of the expectations of you fit in, you feel like you fit in, you're part of the culture. It just seems like there has to be a second standard.
Yeah,
And we should
absolutely.
all
They're
be okay
never
with
gonna.
that because we all chose the reason. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And some people are remote and still manage to kind of know people here and know what's going on, and they're just good at that. And
Hmm.
other people are like, in the shadows and don't really get involved. And there's also some people that just like myself, I don't want to work remote. I would miss like
Hmm.
being able to talk to people, you
Hmm.
know.
Yeah.
I mean, I would miss being able to walk around and just say hi to people and
Hmm.
have that like more the social component.
Hmm.
So remote work's definitely not for everybody.
Hmm.
Um, but the ones that like it, like love it, right? Like
Hmm.
they don't ever want to go back.
Hmm.
Or at least in this phase of their life, it's what's good for them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have a relative and she kills it. Her headquarters, she's on the East Coast, headquarters are somewhere on the West Coast, and she crushes
Hmm.
it and she feels connected
Yeah.
and meets her needs. Um,
Yeah.
so I mean, this concern of I was sort of going down this path of those who want to pull everybody back into the office. If I can't see it, I can't manage it. That's kind of
Yeah.
my characterization. Like, what's your reaction to that? People, so listeners are saying, well, I got to be able to see it. And if you're not here, you're not working, even though that wouldn't necessarily be the words. Maybe just remote working for their practice is not for them. Maybe it's just as simple as that, I guess. Um,
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know, it would make me wonder what kind of manager they are for their in-person employees, right?
yeah.
Because
Are
like,
you hovering? Yeah. Is that
yeah,
really,
like how do you like,
are you making yourself see because you need to
yeah.
see it? And are you grasping what you're seeing? Like, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have too many employees to be able to see that they're all working. I
Hmm.
have to trust my other managers, and even them, even those managers can't have eyes on every person every moment of the day. So,
Yeah.
and then there, you have some employees that I always say like work best when under constant supervision and when cornered like a rat. But those
God,
are
that
not
sounds
the employees
awful.
you want to have.
No. Yeah.
So if you have employees like that, you don't have the right employees.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's that too. So um my experience is that it works great.
Yeah.
We had some people that just like, you know, it just didn't work great, of course. And you
Hmm.
have to be willing to, cut your losses when you have that
Yeah.
happen. We've had employees that have shown up on web meetings like with clients like inappropriately dressed, or we've had like they're sitting in their recliner with their cats all over them and you're like, it's not like, can you please sit at a desk? Like this is not
Yeah.
the life
Act
we're
like you're
going for.
here. Like,
Right.
seriously? Yeah.
Yeah. Or like I said, they've got all their kids sitting in their laps while they're trying to work. I mean, I have
Hmm.
a mom. There's no way I could get to be productive with a baby in my lap.
Yeah.
So, um, things like that
Yeah.
happen. For the most part, our remote workers do a fantastic job.
Yeah. Are there any lessons you've learned over the years of doing this? Like, something that you used to do, you don't do now because you learned it's just a bad idea. And
Um, that's a great question. I feel like um, we just have to understand that we're probably not always going to get our tech back. Like,
that's
so
true.
yeah,
So do you like, yeah, like
we
it'd
have
be
to be able to like
hard.
shut it down remotely.
Hmm.
So we've had to work with our IT vendor to like, how do we make sure that it's not a vulnerability.
Hmm.
Once they quit, sometimes they mail it back, but um, I think you have to be prepared that you're not going to get it back.
Do you
Um,
like withhold money from the final paycheck or anything? Like if you,
I mean,
it's hard.
like,
Like if the laptop's 5 years old, it's like, what's it really
right,
worth? But I mean,
exactly.
yeah.
It's kind of tough, and uh yeah, so that's hard. Or shipping that stuff can, I mean, sometimes they'll mail it back, but they don't like package it up very well. And so it's like, well,
They
it
must
was
have been
fine
disgruntled.
until
Yeah, you can have your
right.
tech back. You
It
can have
was
it
fine.
back, but you didn't say
I'm gonna
usable.
run over it with my car
Right.
first,
Let me flatten that and drop it in an envelope for you. Oh my God, that's
right.
hilarious.
So that's one of the things that I've just like realized like but I mean, we have so many remote workers right now that if I had to bring them into the office, I wouldn't have enough seats for them. Like
Hmm.
I'd have to like rent more space somewhere because I just couldn't
Yeah.
keep them all in a cubicle or something anywhere. So
Yeah.
that's been important. Oh, I forgot, we have call center employees that work remotely too.
Oh, okay. Makes
Yep.
perfect sense. Why have
Yep.
a call center? I'm staring at your office. Like, why?
Right,
Why does it need to be there?
right.
Yeah,
And when they first start, we like to have them in the office so that the call center manager can like train with them really well and stuff like that. But
sure.
then once they're like kind of set loose, they get to take their computer home. And I
Hmm.
mean, we know if they're answering the phone or not. So that's worked out really well too.
Yeah. Now I'll throw this out there. So sometimes I'll go to our local library to get some work done when I want a change of pace. And
Uh-huh.
there's a certain floor in the library where you don't have to be that quiet. And in the middle of an afternoon, I've seen one person sets up shop. This person's a customer service person. And now that I think of it, I hope it's not in healthcare because
Yeah.
oh my God, just the
Right.
HIPAA
Right.
explosions that I'm picturing. But like,
Right.
yeah, maybe you want to, I don't know, but yeah, they can be. Why? Why does it have to be local?
Well,
It
and
doesn't.
then, that's been super beneficial for us too, because like we've had all these snowstorms this year for which in Virginia that's like unusual
Crushing. Yeah.
and crushing. And our call center folks can stay home and answer the phone still,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a huge benefit. And
Mm-hmm.
we've also had one of our offices kept losing power. And it happens to be the office that our call center would be in if they were working in the office. And so
Mm.
it's been a beautiful thing because they can go home and, still we're not, dead in the water.
That's true. That's
Yep.
true. You sort of diversify some certain types of risks.
Right.
Yeah. A lot of ground covered. Is there anything you think we should have hit that we just didn't get to? Anything I should have asked you or something we need to
Um,
cover?
yeah,
Do you have any that are overseas remote workers?
um, so we do actually use I don't like hire them directly, but I use a third party company called Hubcom, and they have workers in Pakistan
Okay.
that augment our call center and our billing department.
Mm-hmm.
They do prior authorizations for us, they do help us with credentialing, and they help us with call center. And they are like $13 an hour. I can't hire anybody for $13 an hour, and no
Mm-hmm.
benefits, no retirement, no nothing. So,
Yeah.
and they're great. It's like a very coveted position for them. So they work really hard and have really good English, and we haven't had any complaints about using that. So when we have the need to expand, we always first think about Hubcom and if that's a possibility before we add another employee because
Yeah.
we're getting squeezed
The
so
numbers
hard
are
with
compelling.
inflation. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything in our discussion about remote workers that you would say is different for overseas versus domestic, or it just doesn't matter?
Just the security.
Mm-hmm.
You probably have to have like a VPN connection and a
Mm-hmm.
little bit more security on that side. And then you do have to be careful with like language barriers,
Sure.
especially if they're going to be talking directly to your patients.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, the group that we're working with, they have accents, but I feel like they're pretty easy to understand.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Okay.
I, yeah, I
Okay.
like it.
So that was the first kind of wrap up question. The other one is, so, we've caught listeners' attention. You know what, Katie, makes a lot of sense. We should, as we need to hire people or replace people, we should think about remote, but they just don't know where to get started.
Mhm.
Sounds great. I've never done this before.
Right.
Critical functions. Where would you recommend they start? Something simple just to kind of get moving.
Yeah, I mean, billing is an easy one, I think. I
Hmm.
mean, everybody has billers. I think that if there's lots of medical practices that don't utilize like systems like Microsoft Teams
Hmm.
because they just haven't felt the need because they can like run around and talk to each other easy enough.
Hmm.
But if you're in different locations or if you're in, have remote people, you have to have something like Microsoft Teams or Slack or some kind of a messaging
Hmm.
and video meeting set up. So you need that. And then I feel like billing's a great place to start. And if you have billers working in your office, if you ask them about working at home, would they, be more productive? I would be shocked if they were like, you know, No, I definitely don't want to do that.
Hmm. Yeah.
And then they save money on like gas and buying lunches because they're at work or whatever. So
Yeah.
I think it's a huge benefit for some employees.
Yeah. And as you say that, what sparked what the thought I got is um it's still a competitive job market out there, I would
Hmm.
imagine. And so private practices can rarely pay the best, but you can offer something else that's valuable.
Hmm.
And maybe this is it. And somebody say, it's not only about the money. Look, I get to 3 days a week, I get to work at home or whatever it is.
Yeah,
Um, and they're really great about it. And I get my
I
work
would.
done, and that's sort of the contract, air quotes, and it's working.
Yes, I would say that our remote employees, we have much fewer HR issues with them
Interesting.
and much better retention rates too. But yeah, like, with our in-office staff, I mean, we've always got people having issues and having, you
Why
know,
is that? Like what? Because which we have wrap up questions, but I do want to ask another one, which is
yeah.
now that you've been hiring people for a while, can you spot as you're interviewing, you know what, you'd be good remote. You've got what it takes to work more independently, be out there
Yeah, I
versus
mean,
somebody else is like, oh my God, you're just gonna crash out. You know what I mean? Are there
yeah,
any
I mean,
traits that you see that our listeners you'd want to
that's
tell
a
them?
great question. I mean, when typically now when we're recruiting for a remote position, we say this is a remote position.
Hmm.
Um, but honestly, I told the story about the MA that works for us that her
Hmm.
husband got transferred, and she is very outgoing, very gregarious, like larger than life personality.
Hmm.
And when she said she wanted to work remote, I was like, no way, she's gonna last a month, and then she's gonna
Mm.
get like tired of being at home and not having, communication with people or not
Hmm.
people face to face. Well,
Hmm.
she's been doing it for over a year now and she loves it.
Hmm.
So you know, I
Hmm.
don't I don't think I can like spot it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think
Good.
it's like a trial and error kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. Good. This has been great. I think we covered a lot of ground. If, listener, if you're not doing this, please think about it because it opens up a lot of flexibility, a lot more options. Yes, it's different than managing somebody who sits next to you. But I guess ask yourself for the person who sits next to you, how often do you really manage them in a
Yes.
typical day or week anyway? If you just kind of sit next to each other, you know, maybe that person could sit at home or you're there. Yeah. So thank you for opening our eyes to this and giving some
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
on the ground real world experience. Um, so you gave us contact information for you. So we're going to put that in the show notes for this episode. Now,
Great.
anybody who wants to contact you, yes, they've got another way to do it. A couple of points before we wrap up. First, if you're like Katie or I and you serve private practice owners and you've got experience you'd like to share with them, or if you're a private practice owner yourself, Katie checks both boxes, um, and you've got some experience on the business side of private practice, you think others would benefit from, it could be anything. The business side is vast. We're not choosy on topics. We just want to get good information out. Either way, we want you to come on Practice Care. And in the show notes for Katie's episode and every episode, there's a link. It takes you a couple of minutes. Just tell us what's on your mind and we'll get you scheduled as soon as we can. And finally, please subscribe. Practice Care is one word, Practice Care. Just how it sounds. It's how it's spelled. We're everywhere, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, you name it. We're easy to find. Subscribe because we drop a new episode every week, and that's the easiest way to stay up to date. Thanks very much, and until next time.